What are writing reflexes? Writing means the orientation of the body in space in relation to each other. These writing reflexes are evolved long back, and the recent textbooks, they just only describe. If you have gone to the earlier textbooks, the writing reflexes get a full length details of the writing reflexes. Here I have shown a cat falling at a different level, and when it was dropped from the height, you just see how it tries to, because you have dropped it in the prone position, and then it will turn and it will then land the ground in a safe manner, just like as if the aeroplane is landing on the ground. So this type of response, these are there with us, and these are called writing reflexes. Now let us see what they are. Before that, I want to recap the previous lecture. I defined posture. It is defined as the attitude assumed by the body either with the support during the course of muscular activity or as a result of the coordinated action performed by the group of muscles working to maintain the stability. Too long a statement to remember. Now I have just made it a little shorter. Posture is essentially the relative position of the body. You just try to think about it is the position of the body or its parts to one another, either body or the parts to one another, using the egocentric, exocentric, geocentric coordinate system, either in motion or at rest. I think this makes a very comprehensive definition, and this would be a correct definition. I repeat, posture is essentially a relative position of the body or its parts with one another, using the egocentric, the exocentric, the geocentric coordinate system, either in motion or at rest. So that means the static and dynamic components have been defined also. That means if it is in motion, it's dynamic. If it is this thing, it's static. Next slide. So the posture, I have last class I have mentioned, it is integrated at 4 levels, 4 different levels. One, because today I have just made a comprehensive or a summarized approach. These integrations are happening at 4 different levels. The number 1, the segment, that is in the spinal cord. The number 2 in the medulla. Number 3 in the midbrain. Number 4, the cortical level. The segmental level, they include stretch reflex, crossed extensor reflex, positive supporting reaction, that is a magnet reaction, and negative supporting reaction, that is giving away. The positive supporting reaction, a touch of the sole or the palm, that suddenly the extensors become erect. And a negative supporting reaction is opposite of the positive. So that means when a extensor muscles are stretched, because of that, the lengthening response, that is the Golgi tendon, these things, they will be excited, then that would give away. There is a relaxation of the extensor group of muscles and a activation of the flexor group of muscles. That is how both positive and negative operate each other. I need not to tell about a stretch reflex and a crossed extensor reflex. You can refer back. Then at the medullary level, we have a tonic neck reflexes and tonic labyrinthine reflexes. The tonic neck reflexes have 3 components. One component is moving sidewards. When you move the head on one side, you have the jaw limbs and the skull limbs. Jaw limbs extend and the skull limbs flex. When you are looking upwards, the jaw limbs, the forelimbs become rigid and extended, hind limbs become flexed. And when you look down, the forelimbs are extended and the hind limbs are flexed, as if you are passing through the hole. Then we have midbrain level, the labyrinthine reflexes here because of the motion, the labyrinthine activity, the sacules and utricles. These are the vestibular system. They respond to the gravity. The hair cells are sitting who are having the autoconia, the dust, the calcium dust or calcium crystals, they will stimulate the hair cells and they will generate the tonic labyrinthine reflexes. There would be the extension of the both the limbs. I have shown the baby's figure in which how upward movement and downward movement making flexion of all, upward movement making extension of everything. Now in the midbrain, we have a series of reflexes. They are called writing reflexes. That we will consider in detail today. And then in the cortical level, we have another series or another pair of reactions or responses which tries to place us or to try to make us to be placed on at a particular platform. So these are placing reactions and hopping reactions. They are cortical level. Okay, so now move on to the writing reflexes. Okay, with this brief introduction, we move on to the writing reflexes. Now I have summarized the whatever I have done in the last class. Now, you just see the same rat, the falling. It is changing its posture. So look at that. You come here, it is falling, it is dropped like this. It twists, the body twists, the neck is having a problem, neck twists the body, and then it comes here, the limbs are coming there, how to approach the ground, so the ground level, and see the focus. These are all various writing reflexes. What are they? Various reflexes that tend to bring the body into normal position in space and resist forces acting to displace it when challenged. When challenged means when a normal position is changed. That is the writing reflexes. I just mentioned these are the reflexes which these are coordinated sequential reflexes which tries to orient the body and its parts in relation to head in space. Body and its parts in relation to head in space. That are the writing reflexes. The ability to assume optimal position by an individual when there is a departure from it or when he is being challenged. Little more, these are fundamental reflexes. Okay, they are continuous unconscious adaptation of the body or its parts to an ever-changing environment. That means a change in the atmosphere or change in our own situations. I'm sitting on a chair which is moving. Suddenly the chair slips. Then what happens? I may fall down and I will just get up or I will try to balance. So that is one way. And the position of the body either in motion or at rest when challenged. I think this would be a more comprehensive definition of the writing reflex. If you cannot remember anything, I will just say that the positioning of the body or its parts in relation to head and in space, either motion or either static. These are fundamental reflexes, and if you see, these reflexes are do not exist in the newborn baby. Newborn baby is just like you have the baby there, and the baby is just trying to as if you hold and the head is not, the neck is not stable, and mother will not allow you to touch, because you may injure that, the head may fall and the body may separate out. So there may be a traction on the head and the neck and the body, so that the newborn baby slowly, by the end of the 2 months, it develops, the neck muscles develop their tension and the neck reflex is established. That means by the end of 2 months, the initial writing reflexes begin to operate, and by the end of 12 months, all the writing reflexes may attain, they will be there, they will just try to establish, and they remain entire life for, and they will be refined then and there, doing certain actions. The writing reflexes are components and which are continued. The writing reflex controls the unconscious position of the head. So that means the head, eyes means you are focusing, and the body in a position with each other. That means in alignment with each other. For the alignment, you require number of inputs from the vestibular system, from the proprioceptive inputs from the muscles and joints, the visual inputs, and the internal inputs generated in the brain. The one communication is from the vestibular system. This vestibular system are the component of the inner ear. There are semicircular canals, the secula and the utricle. The semicircular canal for the angular motion, the secula and utricles for the linear and for the gravitational and the linear motions. So then we have the proprioceptors. Proprioceptors are there. I have covered the proprioceptive sensation. They are there in the muscles, in the joints, in the fascia around the joints. They will be sending inputs through the spinocerebellar tracts, going to the crossed or uncrossed cerebellar spaces, especially those who are going to the vermis or the vestigial nucleus. From there they communicate to the vestibular nucleus and to the red nucleus. They will try to govern the entire body, the body positioning. So that is the proprioceptor. Then visual inputs. What happens to the visual inputs? The rods and cones, they will visualize the whatever the ground reality, and then these visual inputs reach the, via the thalamus, the lateral geniculate body, reach the occipital cortex. From the occipital cortex, they coordinate to the somatosensory association area, what is called parieto-occipitotemporal association area. From these association area, it will send impulses to the colliculi or the tectum, and there the eye movements are coordinated in relation to the head. So that is the visual component. Third is the interoceptor component. Interoceptor component is the brain somatosensory association area. They will also, that means they will try to coordinate all the positions, because it is the point where everything is put in one. That means they have the total blueprint of the motion. So this is somatosensory association area in association with the cerebellar inputs coming from the lateral part of the cerebellum. So these four ways of conversation between, they bring in the complex series of movements, what are called writing reflexes. I have already mentioned about it. They developed after 2 months of birth, and it is because of the gravitational forces the child, the infant is subjected to. And by the end of first year, that first birthday, he will attain the control over these writing reflexes, and he can, or the baby, he or she can make the movements, he can walk around, and he can even try to run, try to do minimum activities, and try to orient in this thing. So now all these writing reflexes are under the control of midbrain level. They are totally integrated in the midbrain. But there are some writing reflexes, they have a center in the cortex. So just like the visual writing reflex. And in this visual writing reflex, however, they have to talk to the midbrain, that is a cortical. So that means the midbrain is the integrating center for the entire writing reflexes. Now, there are two categories of writing reflexes. One is to bring the head upright or make it vertical orientation in space in relation to gravity. Then it's not only bring the head upright. Now this upright posture is to be aligned with the trunk position. That means the neck, trunk, and the limbs should be in alignment. So that means it is in the longitudinal alignment. So that means there would be an alignment or the erect, bringing the head upright along with the alignment of the trunk to the head level. So that is the two important aspects of the writing reflexes. Now, usually there are transitions with the writing reflexes. They underlie the movement transitions from one position to the other position. That means from lying down to the upright positions and in relation to gravity and space. Say for example, when you are required to head lift, how lifting up the head, you can just see how you transition certain parts. The rolling, that means turning around. That means how you are going to change the head and the entire limb structures. Crawling, as the child does. The crawling, the head is kept up and the upper limb and the lower limb, upper limb is mostly flexed, the lower limb is upper limb is rigid and the lower limb is these things. Creeping, standing, walking, running, etc. All these postural alignments are associated with the tone. So that means these transitions are associated with the different levels of tone in the muscles. These responses or these reflexes are rapid and they don't lose time, and they will be necessary to balance one's body and carry the body weight when you are changing. These are some of the transitions of the writing reflexes. 5 writing reflexes. Maybe they are too small to read, and I will just go back one by one. I'm expanding them one by one in my next slides. So because of this thing only, I have made it expanding it here. This is the types of reflexes. So we have a labyrinthine writing reflex. That means they are the head writing reflexes, the neck writing reflexes, the body writing reflexes, the limb writing reflexes, optic writing reflexes. The head, neck, body, limb, and visual. Here on the right hand side, I have taken a figure from Samson on the right. This gives the basis for the writing reflexes. One, the labyrinthine writing reflexes. The labyrinthine writing reflexes, here you have the vestibule here, the vestibular system. They start from the vestibular system, and from here it will go to the diatus nucleus, that is a vestibular nucleus, and from the vestibular nucleus, and it will go to the cerebellum, that is a vestigial component, vestigial nucleus of the cerebellum. From the cerebellum, the output goes to thalamus and to the cerebrum and the corticospinal tract, and from here to the red nucleus and down to the tone of the muscles or the alpha motor neuron here. Okay, so now this is the vestibular component, and meanwhile these things, they will provide the connection to the red nucleus via the reticular system. So this is the reticular system and the red nucleus, that is a dotted line is coming through the reticular system. Then second, the neck muscles, they have the proprioceptors. They perform whatever the neck muscle tone, the a crossed extensor response or whatever it is doing. And along with that, the fibers, proprioceptive fibers, reach through the reticular system through the red nucleus. Of course, they will also reach to the cerebellum, not through this path, the spinocerebellar inputs, the cuneo-cerebellar inputs, they reach to the cerebellum. There are crossed and uncrossed. They will go to the cerebellum, the spinal component of the cerebellum, and then they will come back to the retinucleus. Similarly, the trunk muscles and the limb muscles. So these are all three components. They are represented here. So this is at the segmental level, this is at the medulla, and this is hindbrain, and this is midbrain, and this is cortex. Now about the optic writing reflex, you have the eyes there. So from the eyes, okay, that will try to association areas that will try to control the corticospinal tract. This is a corticospinal tract or a pyramidal tract. So along with that, the eyes will also focus on the red nucleus through the collicular. That means through the somatosensory association area to the colliculus, they will also try to have an input to the reticular system and to the collicular nucleus. They will try to orient the eye movement. So this is in brief description of this figure. I will only refer to the particular area in the subsequent this thing. These are the different types of writing reflexes. To make the thing simple, head, neck, body, limb, and eye writing reflexes. Head, neck, body, limb, eye writing reflexes. This head, the labyrinthine vestibular system is placed in the head. That is a labyrinthine writing reflex. Neck, body, limb are same. Then eye is the optic writing reflex. These are 5 different types of the writing reflexes. Now, coming back to the labyrinthine writing reflex, let us understand that head writing reflex. What is the stimulus for this? It is the gravity. I've already mentioned. So now, what are the receptors for this thing? These are sacules and utricles. Especially when it is gravity, it is the sacules, because the sacule orientation is slightly in a vertical direction, so that any change in the gravity that would be picked up by these autoconia. So the utricle is placed horizontally, that will for the linear acceleration, linear movement, that will detect the linear movement. The angular motion is by the semicircular canals. Okay, so now the nerve is the vestibular nerve. And where is the center? The center is, though they are first coming to this diatus nucleus, that is the vestibular nucleus. From this vestibular nucleus, they will go to the medulla through the colliculus, the red nucleus, and that is the midbrain. So that means I have mentioned integrated in the midbrain at the collicular or a tegmental level. Red nucleus, diatus nucleus, cerebellum, because the cerebellum is also involved for the vestibular thing. So these are the three are other centers who are also participating. The main integrating center is the midbrain. If a midbrain is cut, this integration will not be possible. Then efferents. The efferents pass through the rubrospinal tract. So this is a rubrospinal tract. Or reticulospinal tract. So that means you have a reticular system here, the reticular system that is not shown there, you can have a reticulospinal tract. So then vestibulospinal tract, this diatus nucleus, that is the vestibular nucleus, and then downwards it's a vestibulospinal tract. So now all these things, they will descend down and they will produce the response on the muscles. Alpha motor neurons and gamma motor neurons here, they will produce the response. The response is to reverse the change. Suppose if there is a tilt and this tilt has to be brought back. So that is the labyrinthine writing reflex. The tilt is brought by the activation in the gravity. So the next component is the neck writing reflex. So that means the neck muscles, I have tilted it already, the vestibular system is operative. The neck muscles are also stretched. See, this side of the muscle, the sternocleidomastoid is stretched. So this neck movement, and the proprioceptors are excited on this side. Now, once these are excited, so these are neck muscles, and their action is to prevent to relax these muscles. Relax these. That means contract the opposite group of muscles to make the head to tilt. So that means the cervical and especially the accessory nerve, cervical segment through the accessory nerve, these proprioceptors are there. The proprioceptors are present in the fascia, present in the joints, present in the Golgi tendon organs. So they are A alpha, A beta fibers. They ascend through the cuneo-cerebellar tract, and these cuneo-cerebellar tract, they will also reach to the cerebellum, and they will try to provide the unconscious proprioception. That is one component. And there is a conscious proprioception also, so that also try to monitor. So now this is the center here. These are the nerves. The center is start with the spinal cord, but the spinal cord is not an authority. It is the authority is the midbrain. So that means everything is integrated here in the rudder nucleus or in the collicular level, in the collicular tegmentum level. So the efferents are through the reticular system, reticulospinal, rubrospinal, and vestibulospinal. They will try to orient and try to bring back the position of the head to the orientation. Now, when you are bringing back the consideration of the activation of the vestibular system, that has to be made. The response is to reverse the change. Next is the body righting reflex. Body is here. This is a trunk. So now, what are the stimulus? Stimulus is body movement, because now the body has not moved. Body has moved, and the head and neck remaining stationary. If I make the head and neck stationary, I have tilted the body. So that is a difficult thing. Maybe I will, when I show the example, you will be able to assume that. So maybe I will just go through that, and maybe here, if you just see this body righting reflex, what is happening? The head and neck is there. The body is tilted. When the body is tilted, it will try to bring back. So I will come back to this. The body righting reflex. Let us consider what are the components of these things. Receptors are the proprioceptors present in the muscles of the trunk muscles there, and the afferents are through the proprioceptor afferents in the spinal cord. That is a posterior spinocerebellar tract, the ventral spinocerebellar tract. They will reach to the cerebellum. From the cerebellum, the nucleus interpositus to the component in the midbrain, that is to the red nucleus, that is the cerebelloponto or cerebello-rubral tract that will reach there, or cerebello-tetal tract that will reach, and they will try to orient. So the center is again the midbrain. So all these things are integrated in the midbrain. If no midbrain, so no question. So that means these are centers. Again, the efferents are same, because once the center is same, the efferents are efferent organs are same. But the effector organs, depending upon the situation, this would monitor. This midbrain monitors. That is the body righting reflex. Body rights in reference to head, because the neck is the interface between the head and the body, and body rights in reference to the limbs, especially the lower limb. So those two things it will consider, trying to put them in one axis or in one cylindrical linearity. Now comes the limb righting reflexes. So usually this is called a body on neck. This is called body on body. I have just changed a little bit, and in some textbooks they mention it as a limb righting reflex, because now it is easier for us to remember. This is body on body. So that means a limb working on the body. So the stimulus is the limb movements. And once the limb movements are there, again the proprioceptors of the limb and the afferents are the same as that of the head and neck and body. That is a proprioafferents through the spinal cord, spinocerebellar tract, ventral and dorsal, and the reaching the cerebellum and then to the tectum. Also, we have the spinotectal tract, the spinoreticular tract. They are also carrying the information. Then the center is, though it starts with the spinal cord, but that is integrating only the reflexes. But in the midbrain, all things are coordinated, they integrated in the midbrain, and especially in the collicular level. Here, the visual, the head, the vestibular, all things are mixed here in the colliculus, and in this, that is the main aspect that midbrain, where red nucleus plays an important role. So the efferents, again, same response is to change the sequence or bring the motion. Now, coming back here, the optic writing reflexes. The optic writing reflexes stimulus is the visual cues, and maybe this okay, it's okay, visual cues, and then receptors are rods and cones, and then optic nerve, thalamus, visual cortex, and colliculus. That is the pathway that reaches. Then center is, though the primary center, because without occipital interpretation, the midbrain cannot think. So that means you require the occipital cortex there, and of course they are integrated in the midbrain. It is finally, if the colliculus has to move the eyeball, so the midbrain has to act. So this is whatever to keep the visual axis. When I'm trying to move, and my eyeballs also move in the same manner, so that means it's the midbrain. Again, these tracts would be playing a role. So this is what here you have seen. That is one component there. The second component, it gives inputs to the third nerve nucleus, and from there the extraocular muscles would be moving. Now, just after having been considered the 5 writing reflexes, we consider that same cat falling from a different angle, perspective. The writing reflexes, correct the position of the body when it goes off balance. Now it is falling. You just see that this is falling. Series of reactions follow one another in an orderly sequence in this cat. The animal is laid on its back. Head writes. Head is writing there. Head writes itself. Now the head has tilted and head made the movement. Then the body. Then the whole thing. This is the body here. Then it will take the posture. Then grounding. So these sequence of writing reflexes will be shown in further slides. Now in the first, so because maybe you are falling, so you can just see that this is the position. Now when this is falling down, you have this labyrinths, the saccules, or the gravitational activity here that would try to tilt. So that means it is initiated from the labyrinthine writing reflex. So labyrinthine writing reflex, so that will twist the head when the animal's head is in a lateral position. So this is lateral position, this twists. Impulses arising from the saccules reflexly stimulate appropriate muscles to move the neck muscles and to an extent the body position. So now what is happening? The neck is moving, the body is also moving, the limbs are also moving, but they are not in a coordinated manner. So now this is the first thing it happens. That means the labyrinthine is activated. In the next, what happens when this labyrinthine is activated? So now you have the labyrinthine activated. Here in this case, the labyrinthine is the first one. Then when this labyrinthine is activated, this body position and the neck positions are not in consignments. You see that twisting of the body, and this one would stimulate the body so that it will assume a position which is something like this. So in this animal, the side contact with the ground or side contact with the air or whatever the interface, it will twist the animal in the space. So like this. That this is because of the differential stimulation from one side and the other side. So that would make it to understand this side is pressurized and this side is not pressurized, the greater pull. So that would make this to happen in this way. So this is from here, the transition goes here. Then the neck writing reflexes start operating. Here the neck is not in a position. The neck is not in a position. Here neck is drooping down. Now, if the neck is drooping down, the sternocleidomastoids, they are sending the impulses, and these neck muscles, they reach the impulses to the red nucleus through the proprioceptors, and then they will be tilted up. You can just see that this is now it has almost zoomed. See, you look at that, it has beautifully taken the stance. The head is righted above the two reflexes. Okay, body still remains lateral position here. The leads to the twisting of the neck, and the thorax and lumbar successfully brought to posture. The writing head is prevented. Impulses from the body to body, they will be writing here. Okay, so this is the right posture it is taking up. Then comes the limb writing reflex. That means you just touching the ground here, touching the ground, and that would initiate the impulses. And this is not touching, and this is touching. Once you touch any structure, you will try to write, or you will try to orient yourself. You must have seen the handrails located in the staircases. Have you observed about that? The engineering department have done wonderfully the handrails when you are climbing the staircases in your apartments or in your buildings. And with these handrails, when you have a light or when you can see everything, nothing, you don't feel bad about it. But when it is pitch dark, you are not seeing anything. Now, how you orient yourself? You touch the handrail, you know that you know the position, that the one part of the limb is associated. Now you know where you are located. Then second, what you do, you just crawl or scratch the foot in the ground. So when you reach the edge of the step, when you reach the edge of the step, you will know it. So then you will say that is the end, and then you try to lift the other limb to such an extent that you can lift it little higher. Then you try to load it. Already, when we are moving in a constant motion, suppose if this is the first time you are going in a pitch dark environment, it may be difficult. But when we are moving in your hostel or in your house or in your whatever the environment, we know approximately what is the height of that steps, 9 inch, 10 inch, 12 inch, or whatever. So we know it. If they are having a larger height, we also understand already the brain has made up. Accordingly, we lift the limb and place it, and then the hand roll is there. So we try to orient and we move. And when we reach the final step, if you are thinking about when you reach the final step, again you try to scroll, or you try to search with your foot the edge, whether there is any additional edge coming up. If there is no additional edge coming up, you presume that the space is okay. At the same time, you will have the end of those handrails. So these are the engineering arrangements for helping our writing reflexes when we are moving in a dark or climbing the steps in the dark. I think you understand this is one of the best examples. We are operating here. What is happening? One, limb writing reflexes are operating, the hand writing reflexes are operating, and then you are trying to have imagination. The interoceptors are operating. So then you move further like that. So that is the limb righting reflex. So here, this is the cat is touching the ground, and once it touches the ground, this will also come there, and that would be operative. Now, going back to the next this thing, this is the optical writing reflex. You can just see that this is now focusing on the ground. You just see that the visual axis is focusing on the ground. Now it tries to see, and it tries to jump. It tries to jump, and you try to land on the ground. So these are optical cues, because you should know that it is the ground. So then it shifts this hind leg into the ground and position itself as a wonderful cat that may run away from that side. These are optical writing reflexes. That is how they are operating, and we cannot see them as one. So these are a series or a sequence of events, one after another. Finally, we land in. Sometimes this may not take much time. We just zoom. So that means when somebody has fallen from a height accidentally, so then these all things would happen. Or when you are jumping from the in the swimming pool, that you are taking the height and you want to jump down, and how things happen. Sometimes you wide stretch your arms, stretch your legs, and sometimes you fall like this. So but with a experience, you can either dive, or you can just enter into the water like a stream, like, because again they are these now the writing reflexes are now maintained, or the focused. So those are things, after training we attain those particular diving skills, or the jumping skills. Now coming back, so this is one of the examples of the neck writing reflex in an infant. So the neck, that means the neck is this neck is tilted there. You just see how the limbs move. See, the limbs try to move there. The body is moving. So these are neck writing reflexes. They try to orient. So the baby is trying to orient the legs. These are the neck writing reflex. That means the writing reflex on the body, trying to make the body in line with the neck. Now I have one wonderful example here. Okay, I have three monkeys. Let us assume there are 3 monkeys. This is the monkey, the normal monkey. Okay, and in this normal monkey, the eyes are covered. Okay, and when the eyes are covered and it was dropped from the tree. So then how does it land in? You just see that it lands in the extended arms. The body is oriented, head is oriented. See, look that head is oriented, body is oriented, the legs are oriented, the hind legs are oriented, the hands are trying to encroach, trying to find out any support system available. Okay, so that means the eyes are not there. Still, this is the response. What does it mean? So that means there would be some inputs. Where these inputs come from? Because you are dropped this monkey from a tree. So then the responses must be coming from a labyrinthine, because labyrinthine system in this monkey is intact. So that means he will land in smoothly. He will land in smoothly to the ground without injuring himself. Now here is a monkey who has been undergone this labyrinthectomy. Labyrinthectomy is a procedure in which we can cut the both the vestibular nerve on one side, or we can place the monkey in a big centrifuge and rotate, and you will destroy all those vestibular system, the otolith organs, because those are crystals. And if you rotate with some centrifugal forces, the crystals will disappear or will be thrown out of the particular site. So we can destroy the labyrinthine nerve. maybe by cutting the nerve or by destroying or centrifuging these things. And in this monkey, the labyrinth is destroyed. And once the labyrinth is destroyed, it is being made the same thing. It is being allowed to drop or dropped from the tree, jump from the tree. What happens? Look here. This is, but eyes are open. Eyes are open. Now the cues are coming from the eyes, the optokinetic reflexes or optic writing reflexes. They will try to orient the body in space. So can you see that here? The eyes are closed, the vestibular system operative. The vestibular system is out, eyes are operative, and then it will try to reach the ground safely. You can just see that how safely it tries to reach the ground. And here is the monkey. This monkey, what we did, we just closed the eyes also. When we close the eyes, what happens to this monkey? Neither the visual cues nor the vestibular cues. So it drops down flat because there is no orientation. There are no labyrinthine writing reflexes or the visual writing reflexes operating in this monkey because the eyes are blindfolded and the vestibular system is destroyed. Under such circumstances, it falls. Okay, it falls. You look at that, how it has fallen. Now, after falling, what happened? So the limbs have touched the ground, and the limb writing reflexes are operating now. The limb writing reflexes are operating and are trying to maintain or trying to lift oneself up. Now, after touching the ground. So now, before touching the ground, the limbs are also being this thing. Once it touches the ground and the limbs receive the inputs, these limb writing reflexes become operative, and it is operative. So this is one of the beautiful example to show that how the labyrinthine writing reflexes operating, how the visual writing reflexes are operating, how the limb writing reflexes are operative in maintaining a posture when the posture is being challenged in this monkey. So this is a beautiful slide. Maybe you can think about, you can worry about. So move on to the next slide. I just leave this thing to your imagination. See that. Skating snowball or something like that, making this thing, and this is a very, very complex movement. And now in this complex movement, this is the center of gravity. This is he is trying to maintain the posture, and see, look at the head positioning, the limb positioning, the body positioning. See, you just see that there is a perfect alignment of the neck, the body, and the limbs. And this is a perfect training. You can just think of the skiing skills of these individuals, and especially skiing and the hockey. They are playing both the things and more complex movements. In this case, one keeps the writing component. So now, having been said about that, so I have mentioned all of them here. You can just see they are. The one thing common is the midbrain is the center. Then another thing, the receptors, I mentioned categorically the receptors for each one of them, especially the neck writing reflexes and all those things are proprioceptors, and the labyrinthine, it is the vestibular system, the saccule, otolith organs, and the eyes are the system. Then the response is the head, keeping the level, or thorax and the shoulders, they are coming up, the writing of the head, writing of the body, writing of the head or eyeballs. So these are the things, and these are the receptors. You can just study all that. Now we have another series of responses which are operated at a higher level. When I started, I said that we have 3 or 4 levels of integration. One level of integration in the spinal cord, another level of integration in the medulla, third level of integration in the midbrain, and the fourth level of integration in the cerebral cortex. And we have 2 responses in the cerebral cortex. These are called placing reactions and hopping reactions. These placing reactions and hopping reactions, they utilize the visual and the vestibular cues or vestibular things. They try to place the body in a particular. You can see, you just saw the monkey there. Then stimulus is a linear acceleration. The receptors are the utricle and saccule. Then the center, though the Dieter's nucleus or though the vestibular nucleus, that will reach to the cerebral cortex via the parietal cortex, the thalamus, the parietal cortex, and the somatosensory association area. From there, the responses are coming down. Then they will try to orient. So they will try to contact the firm surface and place oneself nicely to support the position of the body. So that is the vestibular placing. Similarly, we have the visual placing reaction. Again, here the visual cues are taken, and from the visual cues, the center is the cerebral cortex. The eyes are participating, again placing. If you go back here, if you can just see that placing reactions, various visual exteroceptive or the vestibular, and also sometimes we can also use the proprioceptive inputs, and they will place the foot on the surface and position oneself. And these are receptors, or three different receptors you can just see, and the center, integration center, is the cerebral cortex. Then next comes the hopping. So we all do the hopping there. So the stimulus is lateral displacement while standing. We try to jump like that, and here the receptor is a muscle spindle, and it will go to the cerebral cortex. These are long loop reflexes, so they will go to the cerebral cortex, and there is a hopping movement that keeps the limb in position to support the body when standing animal is pushed laterally. When you are pushed laterally, you try to come back. So that is the hopping reaction. Maybe I will go back again here in this. So the lateral displacement, that is pushed sidewards, you suddenly bring back, and the receptors are the muscle spindle and the long loop reflexes, which are operated at the cerebral cortex. Okay, so now with these things, I have covered the little more complex chapter of the postural reflexes. And most of the textbooks have given it in a fragmented or this thing, and maybe my notes there and in this would be help to you to arrange yourself for the postural reflexes. Okay, in the CNS lesions, I will talk about a decorticate, a decerebrate, and a decerebrate preparations, and the spinal animals.